I want you to picture your bathroom cabinet right now. Or, maybe that one specific shelf in your kitchen pantry.
Oh, yeah. Everybody has that shelf.
Right.
Ah,
I'm willing to bet you have this small, uh, kind of chaotic collection of half-used, highly specific vitamin bottles sitting there.
yep, the supplement graveyard.
Exactly. You have your vitamin C for when you feel a cold coming on, maybe a random bottle of B12 you bought when you were feeling tired a few months ago.
Probably some magnesium, maybe some calcium.
Honestly, it probably looks like a miniature chemistry lab. But what if modern nutrition science is actually pointing us away from that chemistry lab approach?
Right, steering us backward, essentially.
Yeah, backward to an ancient, wildly potent plant that researchers are studying as a massive shift in how we get our nutrients.
It really represents a huge pivot in how we approach human health. I mean, we spent the better part of the last century trying to isolate health into single synthetic compounds.
Just engineering things in laboratories?
Exactly. But now, the consensus among a lot of clinical nutritionists is shifting rapidly back toward the biological source. We are finally recognizing the limitations of isolation.
And that is exactly our mission for this deep dive. We have a fascinating stack of notes and research from nutrition experts detailing this major shift in the wellness space.
It's a really exciting time in nutrition.
It really is. So we are going to explore the science behind a plant called Moringa. Specifically, we're looking at a modern formulation we have data on called Moringa Magic.
Right.
Our goal is to understand exactly why some nutritionists are suddenly referring to this ancient tree as a multivitamin from nature.
Which is a bold claim, but the science backs it up.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we even talk about the biology of the tree itself, we have to talk about why the experts are suddenly changing their tune.
Why they are abandoning all those traditional isolated supplements we just talked about in your cabinet.
Exactly. So what is the big shift here?
Well, the overarching theme in the literature right now is a shift toward a food as medicine paradigm.
Okay.
For a very long time, the supplement industry operated on a model of extraction and synthesis. The logic was pretty straightforward, really.
Like, if the body needs vitamin C, just make vitamin C.
Right. If you need vitamin C, a lab would simply synthesize the exact molecular structure of ascorbic acid, press it into a pill with some chemical binders, and sell it to you.
Seems logical on the surface.
It does, but it was a very reductionist approach.
Mm.
Modern nutrition experts are really questioning the long-term efficacy of that method now.
Because human biology is a bit more complicated than a basic chemical equation.
Well, vastly more complex. That's why they're moving aggressively toward whole food plant-based solutions.
Now, the sources emphasize that this shift is largely driven by a phenomenon they call hidden micronutrient deficiencies, which sounds really counterintuitive at first glance.
That sounds strange, yeah.
Because, if you were eating 3 square meals a day, getting plenty of calories, sustaining a normal diet, how can you possibly be starving for nutrients?
Well, it happens because we have fundamentally confused calorie density with nutrient density.
Ah, okay. Let's break that down for everyone.
So, when you eat a standard modern processed diet, you are getting plenty of macronutrients. Just to clarify for anyone taking notes, those are your fats, carbohydrates, and proteins.
Right, the big stuff.
Exactly. You can eat a diet that completely sustains your daily caloric needs. You feel full, you might even be gaining weight. But on a cellular level, your body is functionally starving.
Wow. Starving while full.
Because the modern food supply is heavily stripped of its original nutrient profile, mostly due to over-farming and heavy industrial processing.
So your body is constantly sending out distress signals.
Constantly.
Hmm.
It's begging for specific micronutrients, the tiny molecular building blocks, the vitamins and minerals that it actually needs to repair cell walls, synthesize hormones, and produce energy.
Right. And historically, the response to that cellular starvation has been to just, toss a synthetic isolated vitamin into the digestive tract and assume the problem is solved.
Which just doesn't work the way we thought.
It really doesn't. Looking at the mechanisms described in the research, taking an isolated synthetic vitamin is a lot like, actually, it's like reading a bullet point summary of a movie.
Oh, I like that comparison.
Yeah, technically you get the basic plot points, but getting your nutrients from a whole food source like a complex plant is like watching the film in IMAX.
Everything is there.
Exactly. Everything works together to create the full effect. You get the soundtrack, the visuals, the emotion.
Yeah.
In biological terms, those are the cofactors and enzymes naturally packaged in the plant.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, what you're describing with that IMAX analogy is the biological concept of synergy.
Synergy.
Okay, this is absolutely crucial to understand if we're going to talk about moringa. Nutrients are not designed by nature to work in a vacuum.
They need their friends.
Exactly. In the wild, a vitamin doesn't exist as a lone synthesized molecule. It exists in a complex matrix. It sits alongside specific enzymes, cofactors, flavonoids, and minerals.
Acting as a sort of delivery system.
A highly sophisticated delivery system. When you consume nutrients synergistically, meaning they are packaged together in their native biological state, they are highly bioavailable.
Meaning your body actually knows what to do with them.
Right. Bioavailability simply means they are packaged in a format that your digestive tract instantly recognizes, easily absorbs, and can shuttle straight into your bloodstream.
So you aren't relying on artificial additives to force the absorption of some synthetic chemical.
Precisely. Synergy is the ultimate goal.
Synergy is the gold standard for how the body wants to receive fuel. So how does moringa actually deliver on this? We need to look at its specific nutritional architecture.
Because the baseline profile of this plant is just remarkably dense.
It really is. Instead of just reading individual lines on a nutritional label, let's group these by how they actually function together in the body.
That is the right way to look at it because the compounds work in tandem. When researchers call it a multivitamin from nature, they're looking at a very robust baseline.
Both fat-soluble and water-soluble vitamins, right?
Yes. For instance, you have vitamin A and vitamin E working together. Vitamin A is foundational for maintaining cellular integrity.
Which means what, practically?
Mostly your vision, your skin barrier, and your initial immune response. And then vitamin E works right alongside it to protect those same cell membranes from structural damage.
So it's supporting healthy aging at a microscopic level.
Exactly.
And then there is the vitamin C content. I mean, we all know vitamin C is associated with the immune system.
Sure, everyone grabs a glass of orange juice when they feel sick.
Right. But the sources point out that in a whole food matrix like moringa, it acts as a powerful electron donor, which plays a massive role in fighting off cellular damage before it even starts.
It's proactive rather than just reactive. And beyond the immune and structural support, you have the metabolic drivers.
The B vitamins.
Yes. Moringa contains a very dense grouping of the B vitamins, specifically B1, B2, B3, and B6.
Now, this is the critical group for anyone who feels chronically sluggish. But how exactly do those B vitamins interact with the food we eat to create energy? Well, they aren't stimulants.
Right. They don't act like caffeine. You aren't going to get the jitters.
Not at all. B vitamins are essentially the biological keys that unlock the energy trapped in your food. They are entirely responsible for energy metabolism.
Okay, so when you eat those macronutrients we discussed earlier, the carbs and proteins,
Your body cannot use them directly for energy. The B vitamins act as enzymes that break down those complex molecules and convert them into ATP.
and ATP is the actual usable cellular fuel, right?
Yes, it powers everything from your brain to your muscles. Without a synergistic complex of B vitamins, your metabolic engine simply cannot process fuel efficiently.
Now, I have to push back here for a second on behalf of you, the listener, because when I read through these notes, a very practical question came to mind.
Okay, let's hear it.
Wait a minute, can't I just drink a glass of milk for my calcium? Can't I just eat a banana for potassium and maybe an orange for vitamin C?
Sure.
So why do I need a specialized plant from the other side of the world to give me these basics? It is a completely valid question. In a perfect, historically normal world, yes, your daily diet would provide everything your metabolic engine requires.
But I'm guessing we don't live in that world.
We absolutely do not. As the research clearly outlines, we are facing a severe systemic mineral deficit.
Because of the soil.
Yes, we are eating foods grown in over-farmed soils that have been depleted of their natural mineral content for decades. A carrot grown today does not have the same mineral density as a carrot grown 50 years ago.
Wow. So even if you are eating whole foods, the food itself is fundamentally missing the raw materials.
Precisely. You're getting the caloric bulk, but you are missing the essential trace minerals.
And that leads to actual symptoms.
So definitely. This specific chronic mineral deficit leads directly to the most common complaints clinical experts hear on a daily basis. Persistent low energy, muscle fatigue that never seems to resolve.
Just poor physical recovery in general.
Exactly. Moringa is so heavily studied right now because it provides a massive plant-based mineral boost to counteract this specific modern deficit.
And the sources detail exactly how these minerals function together in the body. Like you have calcium, which we know provides the rigid structure for bones and teeth.
But right alongside it, you have magnesium.
Yeah, and the dynamic between those two is fascinating. Calcium is responsible for muscle contraction, but magnesium is vital for muscle relaxation.
They balance each other out.
Right. So if you are experiencing constant muscle cramps, tension, or an inability to physically unwind, it's very often a biological magnesium deficit. The body can contract, but it lacks the chemical signal to relax.
It is a perfect example of synergy. You also have iron naturally occurring in the moringa leaf.
Which is huge for energy.
Massive.
hmm
Iron is the core component of hemoglobin in your blood. Its entire job is to bind to oxygen in your lungs and physically transport it to every single cell in your body,
So if your iron is low, your oxygen transport is compromised.
which totally dictates your baseline energy levels. And finally, the plant delivers potassium, which works to support cardiovascular health by managing fluid balance and electrical signaling in the heart.
So the pushback is really answered by the sheer density and the biological pairing of these minerals.
Yes, you would have to eat an incredibly diverse, voluminous, and meticulously sourced diet to equal it.
Assuming you could even find mineral-rich soil in the first place.
Exactly. To equal the synergistic profile naturally occurring in a single serving of moringa is almost impossible for the average person today.
So it is really about efficiency and bioavailability. Okay, so we understand the vitamins and the minerals. That covers the structural and metabolic baseline.
But there's a lot more to it.
Oh, absolutely. Here's where it gets really interesting. Because vitamins and minerals are essential, yes, but they still don't fully explain the massive scientific interest in this plant.
Not even close.
To understand why experts are examining it so closely, we have to look beyond basic nutrition. We have to explore how moringa actively defends the body's cells from degradation.
And this brings us to what is arguably the most critical topic in longevity and cellular health right now: antioxidants and their ongoing battle against oxidative stress.
Let's clearly define the threat first. Because oxidative stress is a term that gets thrown around a lot in wellness spaces without much explanation.
It really does. People know it's bad, but they don't know why.
Right. So the literature focuses heavily on something called free radicals. A free radical is essentially an unstable molecule in your body that is missing an electron.
And it wants that electron back.
Desperately. Because it is unstable, it frantically bounces around inside your system, looking to steal an electron from a healthy cell to stabilize itself.
Which is where the damage happens.
Exactly. When it steals that electron, it damages the healthy cell membrane, literally accelerating the aging and degrading process. And the problem is, modern life is basically a free radical factory.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
When clinical researchers talk about oxidative stress, they are referring to the cumulative damage caused by millions of these free radicals tearing through your healthy tissue.
It sounds violent on a microscopic level.
It is. You could think of it almost like a biological rusting process. If you leave a piece of untreated metal exposed to the elements, it slowly oxidizes and degrades.
And we are doing that to our bodies.
Yes, inside your human biology, chronic psychological stress, environmental pollutants, sleep deprivation, and heavily processed vegetable oils all drastically increase the production of these unstable free radicals.
So just the sheer burden of existing in the modern world increases oxidative stress.
Yes, which systematically wears down your organ tissues, your vascular system, and your skin.
So the environment and our modern habits are quite literally causing us to rust from the inside out.
That is a sobering biological reality.
It really is. But here comes the defense mechanism. Moringa provides a highly bioavailable network of antioxidants.
And structurally, an antioxidant is simply a molecule that has the ability to donate one of its own electrons to a free radical.
Neutralizing the threat without becoming unstable itself.
Exactly. They essentially disarm the free radicals before they can breach your cellular walls.
What's fascinating here is the specific architecture of Moringa's defense system. It is not just providing a mild, generic antioxidant effect.
No, the chemical analysis of the plant reveals highly targeted, incredibly potent compounds. They operate on entirely different biological pathways.
For instance, the literature highlights a compound called quercetin.
Quercetin is highly regarded in the clinical world.
Yeah, specifically for its ability to support cardiovascular function. The mechanism is really elegant. It actively protects the endothelial lining.
Which is the delicate inner wall of your blood vessels.
Right, helping to maintain a healthy vascular system even when the body is under heavy oxidative stress.
Then there's another specific compound detailed in the research called chlorogenic acid.
Oh, this one is crucial. The notes indicate that this compound helps regulate blood sugar levels.
And the mechanism here is really important to understand. It doesn't just magically lower blood sugar.
Right, it actually slows down the release of glucose into your bloodstream after you eat a meal.
By slowing that release, it smooths out those massive glucose spikes and the inevitable exhausting energy crashes that always follow.
It provides a steady, regulated stream of energy instead of a roller coaster.
And alongside quercetin and chlorogenic acid, we see very high concentrations of beta-carotene.
Which targets the skin, right?
Yes, beta-carotene is a specialized antioxidant that specifically targets the integrity of the skin barrier and supports the underlying immune function.
So when you consume this plant, you aren't just getting passive vitamins.
Not at all. You are introducing aggressive protective compounds that actively hunt down and neutralize the specific cellular damage caused by modern living.
This dynamic defense system is why experts emphasize it so heavily. I mean, it is an objectively incredible biological resume for a single plant species.
It really is unmatched in a lot of ways.
But let's ground this conversation in reality for a second. It is abundantly clear that moringa possesses a highly synergistic protective architecture.
The science is very clear on that.
But practically speaking, what does this mean for you, the listener? Are you realistically going to go out, locate a fresh moringa tree, harvest the raw leaves, and figure out how to properly prepare, dose, and consume them every single morning?
Most likely not.
Probably not.
And honestly, from a chemical perspective, if you process the raw plant incorrectly, you run a very high risk of destroying the exact synergistic benefits we just spent all this time detailing.
Oh, because they're sensitive to heat.
Highly sensitive. The phytonutrients, the enzymes, and the antioxidants in these plants are incredibly delicate. Boiling them or drying them under harsh conditions can denature the compounds, rendering them totally inert.
Right. And on the flip side of that practical coin, are you really going to go back to that bathroom cabinet and juggle 10 different pill bottles every morning to try and artificially recreate this plant's profile?
Taking a synthetic iron pill, an isolated magnesium pill, a lab-created B complex,
And a generic antioxidant blend. It's exhausting, it's highly expensive, and as we learned from the construction site analogy earlier, it's far less effective.
because it completely lacks that necessary whole food mortar and blueprint.
Exactly.
This is exactly the practical, everyday barrier that modern nutrition formulations are trying to solve. And it is why the literature we are reviewing specifically highlights the formulation known as Moringa Magic.
Right, which represents a modern attempt to bridge the gap between ancient botanical complexity and modern daily convenience.
The documentation we have on Moringa Magic positions it as a high-quality, concentrated formulation, one that actually respects the delicate structural integrity of the plant during processing.
It's designed as an all-in-one approach. The sources describe the Moringa Magic formulation as delivering that concentrated, plant-based nutrition without the daily friction.
The argument the manufacturers are making and that the nutritional experts are validating is that it eliminates the need to play amateur pharmacist every morning.
By providing this unified, intact biological matrix, it supports your baseline daily energy and your cellular vitality.
While simultaneously complementing your cardiovascular and digestive systems.
And that convenience factor is actually a crucial variable, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. In any clinical outcome or wellness protocol, consistency is the primary driver of success.
You can't just do it once and expect a miracle.
No, you do not get the biological benefits of neutralizing oxidative stress or rebuilding deep-seated mineral deficits by taking a supplement sporadically once a week.
The cellular repair requires a daily habit.
Exactly. By simplifying the routine into a single formulation, Moringa Magic theoretically ensures that you are actually introducing that rich, synergistic profile into your bloodstream on a consistent basis.
So what does this all mean if you actually commit to this biological shift? If you replace the chaotic cabinet of isolated synthetic chemical pills with a single synergistic plant-based solution like Moringa Magic, what does the science suggest you can actually expect to happen in your body?
Let's bring this all the way back down to the daily lived experience.
Yes, what does it feel like?
Well, the tangible results, according to the clinical understanding of these compounds, are profound, but they are also deeply foundational. We need to be clear here. We are not talking about a jittery, artificial high like you get from a massive dose of caffeine or a synthetic pre-workout.
Right, it's not stimulant.
No. Consistent use of a synergistic profile supports sustained, even energy levels throughout the entire day. And the mechanism for that is clear. You are finally providing your cellular metabolism with the precise B vitamins and iron it needs to unlock and transport the energy from your food.
You would also logically see much better immune resilience because you have that matrix of vitamin C, vitamin A, and beta carotene acting as a constant proactive shield against free radical damage,
Exactly. Furthermore, because you are introducing intact plant compounds rather than harsh synthetic binders, you can expect improved digestive balance.
which leads to just an overarching sense of physical well-being.
Yes. It is very important to note, as the rigorous experts always do, that no plant is a magic cure-all that overrides a terrible diet or a chronically stressful lifestyle.
Right, you still have to take care of yourself.
But it acts as a remarkably powerful, biologically appropriate addition to a healthy routine. It is a fundamental return to foundational nutrition.
Foundational nutrition. It really is about getting back to the original biological blueprint of how our digestive tracts and our cells were actually engineered to consume and process fuel.
Over millions of years of evolution,
Yeah. It's a completely different way of looking at supplementation, relying on the plant's native structure rather than a mid-century lab synthesis.
it represents a much smarter and more holistic approach to everyday cellular wellness.
Right.
It is incredibly nutrient-dense, it is entirely plant-based, and it focuses on equipping the whole biological system.
Rather than trying to isolate and artificially suppress one single symptom, which leaves us with a really fascinating thought to ponder as we wrap up this deep dive.
I think so too.
We've spent this entire conversation looking at how heavily modern science and the supplement industry have relied on isolating nutrients, pulling complex biology apart into single chemicals in a lab.
And throwing away the synergy.
Right. And how whole food nutrients, like those found in the moringa tree, actually work synergistically in these perfectly balanced, wildly complex natural ratios. It really begs a massive question.
It does.
How many other ancient, wild plants are out there right now, quietly holding perfectly balanced, synergistic nutrient profiles that modern science has simply overlooked or dismissed in its rush to synthesize individual vitamins for mass production?
It's a huge question.
It is definitely something for you to ponder the next time you walk down a supplement aisle past that massive wall of isolated synthetic bottles. Maybe the true future of human nutrition isn't found in a new chemistry breakthrough, but rather in a much more careful, respectful study of the past.